Today I want to talk about 10 different things that you can do in order to get the most out of your Procreate experience. Those are going to be a mix of features, tips and tricks, and options in order to make your life as easy as possible whenever you're working with digital illustration. My name is Leo and you're watching Ghost Paper, so now let's get to it. So number one on the list, working with a double tap feature on your Apple Pencil 2nd generation. Alright, for this first tip right here, it does require you to have an Apple Pencil 2nd generation. This is actually an Apple Pencil 2nd generation. It's just that I use the D brand sticker onto this pencil here. So it's just kind of like a decal, and it's supposed to be like a replica of a real pencil. But this pencil, the 2nd generation pencil, comes with the double tap gesture feature, which allows me to double tap on the pencil on the flat part of the pencil and recall an option here on Procreate. And this is actually the tip that I want to show you. If we go here into the settings and look under Apple Pencil, you have a few options, and I believe that the default option is to switch between the current tool and the eraser, which you can certainly do so. So if I just do that, as you can see, it's switching between the brush and the eraser, but I find it even more interesting to actually have this option of switching between the current tool and the color palette, especially if you're doing a lot of coloring, if you're doing a lot of, you're sketching with different colors so that you have a better guide for your drawing. You can now just tap on your pencil and you're switching between the brush and the color palette. As well, of course, if there's a lot of people who actually draw and they kind of keep rotating the pencil, kind of reaccommodating in their hands. If you're activating this option by accident too many times, you can always go back here into the settings menu and just tap off to completely turn off this feature. Number two, setting up the quick menu in order to work the best for you in Procreate. So now let's talk about the quick menu. And the reason why I have this here in this video is not just for you to turn on the quick menu and basically never use it. What I'm actually talking about here is for you to actually change the options within the 6 options that the quick menu gives you in order for you to achieve the maximum of your productivity. So in this case here, I've actually swapped a few of these options. So for example, I have paint and erase here on the left side. In the middle, I have creating a new layer and merging down the layer. And then I have flipping horizontally the canvas, and finally the eyedropper. And I also have the activation of my quick menu rather quickly, which I'll also show you. So just by doing this, as you guys can see, I can go, quick menu, paint, quick menu, erase. I can go quick menu, new layer, quick menu, merge down, quick menu, flip horizontally, quick menu, flip horizontally again. And this all can be very, very quick. It's just, to be completely honest, I'm a little rusty on using quick menu, but it is a very, very powerful tool. So just to start with, in case you don't even have the quick menu activated, we just have to go into the actions menu, go into preferences, and let's just go into gesture controls. So now we have to find the sub option quick menu, and on every option here on Procreate gives you all of these activation methods, all of these activation options. And it's going to be up to you to define your best activation method. In my case right here, I do have the quick menu with the touch and hold option. However, I've set the delay feature here to be very, very quick, to about 0.15 of a second. So not extremely quick that any touch will evoke the quick menu, but at the same time, not something like a second and a half for me to have the quick menu activated. So now that I've showed you how it can be really, really quick to have the quick menu and what you can do with quick menu, I want to show you how you can cater it and modify it to your needs. So first, we're just going to evoke quick menu. And now all you have to do if you want to change any of the 6 options, you just press and hold, and then you can select through a list of many, many options, many actions that Procreate gives you. For example, if you use a lot of smudging in order to blend your colors, you can certainly just flip through here until you find the smudge tool. And if you click on it, now we have the smudge on the top left option here on the quick menu. So I can quickly go erase or select it again and go smudge. Number 3, if you do a lot of quick shapes in Procreate, make sure that you're using this quick shape hack. So this is one of my most used hacks here on Procreate, if not the most used. However, with the latest update, I do have to say that Procreate actually may have changed something, which is is actually duplicating, not necessarily making the result that I want. That's what I want to say. But in any case, I just want to show you this hack. So first, we're just going to select a brush here. So I'm just going to use a studio pen and about this color, and I'm just going to make a circle. I'm actually going to make it a little thicker so that you can see better on the video. So say that we have this circle. We want to move it somewhere around here, top right. We want to make sure that it's a circle. And let's just say that I'm like tweaking, I'm doing a few things here. And by mistake, I just exit this tool. And as we know, this is a quick shape until you actually exit the tool. And therefore Procreate renders this or transforms this into pixels. So it rasterizes this element, and now I can't just really edit those Bezier points. I can only transform, knowing that anything that I transform or scale down, it will once again lose that pixel information. So if I want to scale that up, I'm always going to be adding aliasing to the pixel edge. I'm going to be losing quality anytime that I'm expanding something that has been scaled down, or anytime that you're actually expanding an element here in Procreate, you're going to be losing a certain quality on the pixels. It's just the way that it is with pixel or raster kind of illustration. So how do we actually create this quick shape undo or redo hack? So all that we have to do is go into the actions menu, go back into preferences and gesture controls, and now we're going to find the quick shape submenu option. And now there are, once again, many ways to activate this tool, but we're going to be using the tap the little square, which sits between the brush size and the brush opacity, and that one is going to activate quick menu. And I know what you're thinking. You're basically saying, so if this is activating quick shape, how does that mean that it's going to be a redo or an undo option? And that's what I want to show you. So I'm going to draw this shape, and I'm going to click edit shape, move it around, and once again I'm going to exit. And now all of a sudden, as we know, we lost the ability to further edit this shape. However, if I click that little icon here, you see that the button edit shape has come back on, and now when I click on it, I can further edit this shape. But the one thing that I do want to show you, which is kind of like the bug that has been happening, is that Procreate seems to be duplicating this shape instead of just repositioning as what was just happening before the latest update. So although this is not perfect at the moment, the reason why this is still good is because even if you have two shapes at this point, you can still create a new layer. Say if this is very crucial for you, maybe this is a shape that is just positioned the right way, you can certainly create a new layer right here and then draw it on top, maybe with a different color. Basically, your created shape, even though it's not perfect, can serve as a reference for you to just create a new layer, draw that shape, and then go back here on your previous layer and just delete that reference. So anyways, quick shape redo hack is a must-have whenever you're using quick shape on your illustrations. Number 4, if you're doing an illustration with a lot of layers, make sure to use this layer select hack. So now let's talk about layer select. And this is an option that I don't usually have on all of the time, but I do like to use it once I'm reaching towards the end of my illustration, and I'll tell you why. So just using, once again, the same illustration as an example, and I'm sure you've been through this because as we all keep painting and illustrating on Procreate, many times as we're using the erase tool or we're drawing more shapes, I've made this as a very clear example here. It doesn't usually, they're not usually this big, but there are many times when we have these unwanted kind of pixels all over our image and we want to get rid of them. But as we evolve in our illustrations, say that we have an illustration with many layers, and then you have to go one by one, turning them on and off, trying to find where is the layer that actually contains those unwanted pixels so that you can finally go with an erase tool and just go here and start erasing these unwanted elements. So there is a much easier way for you to actually find these elements actually without even opening the layers panel. And that's what I want to show you right now. So first we just have to go into the actions menu, preferences, and once again gesture controls. And now we just have to find the option layer select. So now we're just going to use the touch in order to invoke the layer select. And you probably saw there was a little a warning here, and that means that I had another option which had the same activation. And that's what I mean also, that I don't use this all of the time, but I do want to use it right now so I can show you how this is so helpful, especially for this moment when you want to get rid of unwanted pixels. So now all that you have to do is just rest your pencil onto the table, and now just scrubbing with one finger onto your illustration, you see that I'm finding every layer, and I'm even finding on a certain region it contains several layers, because there's shadows, there's highlights, there's the base layer as well. And if I now just kind of scrub through, I actually select that layer. So right there, I've actually selected the layer which contains the base layer. So now, for example, I can use the erase tool and actually get rid of my base layer, or I can continue to paint. So this is amazing because I didn't even have to actually open the layers panel. So in the case of those unwanted graphics, now if I just go right about here and I see that I have that layer with those little elements, I just select that layer, and now with my erase tool, I get rid of all those unwanted elements. Number 5, modifying the grids in order to work the best for you. So now let's talk about grids and tweaking the grids to work the best for you in your illustrations as well. So as many of you might know, we can go into the actions menu, canvas, and turn on the drawing guide. And what the drawing guide does, at least on its default state, it gives you a 2D grid, which is really great for you to see if your illustrations are centered, or if you want to use the rule of thirds, or if you want to do any kind of balancing layout in your composition. However, there are many ways, or there are cases where the color of your grid may not be working so well for you. For example, let's just go into the preferences and edit drawing guide. And let's just say that my grid was actually pink. So, my background is also pink. So that's not really going to help. So if it was something like this very, very light pink, I almost can see it. And I bet that the camera can almost not capture or also not see it. But you can certainly change the color of your drawing guide just here at the very top. And you can also change the opacity and thickness of your grid. That is, of course, on top of the grid size. So if you want something a little bigger, or if you want something a little smaller, you can go as small as 1 pixel, which is really great, especially if you're doing pixel art in Procreate. But you can certainly keep it at a size that is decent for you. And you can also use, for example, if your canvas is 4000 by 4000 and you use a 40 or 400 pixel grid size, you can have like a really nice grid size that fits your canvas. Number 6, choosing the right UI theme color and background color as well for your illustration. So this one is actually really simple, but in fact there are many reasons why it's good to actually tweak your UI theme color and the background color whenever you're starting an illustration or even working during an illustration. For example, in this illustration right here, I do have an illustration that's kind of like looking like morning time, or it's more on the brighter side of things. So if I wanted to, I could go into the actions menu, go into preferences, and turn on light interface, and I could try to balance my illustration by looking at colors that aren't so dark. The same goes if this illustration was really dark and kind of like a cave kind of illustration. I could go back here onto the actions menu and turn off the light interface and go a little darker. Also knowing that whenever you're using the lighter interface, you're probably using a little bit more of the battery of your iPad, because you're emitting more light through the screen. And also, whenever you're starting a new illustration on Procreate, you can always tap on the layers panel and tap on the background color, and the default on any illustration is usually this white color here, but you can change it to a gray value, and not only you're saving battery life, but you're also going to have probably more equalized colors, because if you go with something super dark, you see how the colors become quite vivid. And if you go with a very bright background color, you see how the colors look a little bit more pale. So when you choose something like a mid-gray, you're going to be finding the colors that work best for you for your illustration until you actually fill in the whole canvas. Number 7, using the left hand or right hand interface. Alright, so this tip is actually quite simple, but in the case that you don't know, there is a way to actually balance out the UI here in Procreate a little bit better between the left hand and the right hand. And actually it's located in the Actions menu, going into Preferences, and you can check this option, Right Hand Interface, which actually sends the brush size, brush opacity, as well as the undo and redo buttons, sends from the left to the right side. So this is also a tip, especially for all the lefties out there that are using Procreate, because it gives you more power for your freehand. So you can check on your layers panel, check on the eraser brushes, on the brushes themselves, the colors palette, and also being able to tweak the size of the brushes as well as the opacity, as well at the same time you're able to draw with your left hand. Also, just bear in mind that you can also tap that little square and push out and reposition vertically this bar to any place that you want vertically here on the screen. Personally, I like to actually bring this down just a bit because whenever we create a new file on Procreate, we always have this space here for the layers panel as well as the color palette, which actually can be quite extended. So I do like to bring this down as much as I can, as I think it does help me to organize my UI. Number 8, making sure that you're using the floating color picker, which comes in Procreate 5 whenever you're coloring. So this tip right here, guys, is something that actually came out with the big launch or the big update of Procreate 5. And although there was quite a buzz, I am sure that a lot of people are still not using it to its fully potential, which is really the floating color picker. So the ability that you have here to actually save your palettes and have them open all the way as you're also working on your illustration in a way that you can move it to anywhere that you want here, it's something really, really powerful. And I think that we're just very used to actually not use this and just keep going and extending either your drawing hand or our second hand and just opening the color menu all of the time. So just make sure to remember that this little graphic here means that you can detach the screen, and although you can't do the same with the paint brushes or the layers panel, you can certainly do with the color palette, and then you can choose colors and being able to drag them onto your layers. If you're at this stage, if you're at the coloring stage, this can be such a good productivity tool in the sense of saving time and testing colors quicker. Number 9, making sure that you're saving the most used canvas presets that you use when you create illustrations so that you can access them quickly. So this one is really simple, guys, but make sure that if you're actually doing a lot of illustrations using the same kind of proportions, for example, if you're doing a lot of stuff for Instagram and you're doing a lot of square illustrations, once you tap the plus button here, you always have that little plus icon right there on the top right on the select canvas, and you can create your custom canvas. For example, I can do a 2048 by 2048 pixels, which is it's pretty much double of the requirement on Instagram, and you can keep it at 300 dpi, and Procreate still gives you 124 layers on an iPad Pro 2nd generation 12.9 inch. So also make sure that you go into your color profile, select RGB if you're only doing stuff for Instagram, or CMYK if you pretend or if you intend to print. And you can also tweak the time-lapse settings of your illustration. Say that you know that you're going to be doing that illustration for the specific reason of time-lapse. You can change to almost studio quality or even lossless. And you can also change the resolution you can change the resolution of the video based on the resolution of your canvas. You can go with a 4K video, a 2K video, and a 1080p video. And now for number 10, I know this sounds simple, but make sure that you're working in the right file. So now for the last one, guys, I know that it sounds very simple, but there's something to be said about knowing that you're working with the right file, because it can really save you hours and hours of work. And that usually happens, this is a great example right here, with illustrations that you have multiple copies, multiple versions as you're working with. Maybe you're saving files, you're saving states. and sometimes you might be working with a wrong file, and that's going to mean that you have to, you know, go back to your previous file, maybe copy all the layers, duplicate layers through files, and that's going to make you lose time, really. So one thing that I love to do, for example, let me just open this file right here, and this is the illustration that actually contains all the layers, as you can see. So I really like to go, before I actually start working on something, let's just say a pass that's going to take hours and hours, I go back into the actions menu, and then here on canvas, you can always go onto canvas information and read everything that this file has to tell you. It will tell you the pixel dimensions. Of course, that also tells you once you're in gallery mode, but if you're in this file, you can always go back there and check the dimensions. Make sure that this is the correct dimensions for your illustration. You can see the DPI for this file. For example, if you wanted to have set this file at 300 DPI, this is not the correct one. So it would probably mean that you need to create a new file and you change the DPI, because you can't really change the DPI once it's already done here. Also on layers, it will give you the maximum layers for that file, so you would know right away how many layers you have. This information also is contained when you create your canvas, but say hours have passed, days have passed, and you don't really remember how many layers, how many maximum layers you have on your file, or even the number of layers available. And it also gives you the color profile for that file, which you can't really set once it's been set. So this is really, really useful. Canvas information gives you so many things, and even gives you some statistics, such as the total number of strokes, the number of time you've actually spent in that illustration, and also the total file size for that illustration. So I do use canvas information especially to make sure when I'm using, when I have illustrations with multiple files, that I'm working with the right and the correct file. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, a like would be super appreciated, as well as make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of these tips and tricks, reviews, and speed paint videos. And that is all for you to become the pro when it comes to Procreate. So on the right side of the screen right here, there's more content for you to learn, more things for you to expand your knowledge within Procreate and other illustration apps, as well as some speed paint videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.